This is your art teacher, Mr. Aguilar, and today I'm going to go over some basic portrait fundamentals when it comes to editing in Photoshop. So what I have here is a camera raw file, shot that we took the other day in class, and I'm going to use this one. I tried to find one of the sillier ones because why not? But we're going to go through over the basic edits. Now, before you do anything, do basic edits on your photo. So when I look at this, I want to check and see my exposure. It's pretty good. Contrast, I like highlights. I'm going to take down some of the highlights. I'm going to take down some of the whites. Maybe bump that exposure up just a little bit. Not too much, but just enough. And I don't really want to do much more than this because we're going to do a lot of our editing in Photoshop. So I just want to make sure I have a good starting point. So I'm going to open this file, and you can see I have another photo up there just in case, so we can use that one too. So first things first, once you have your file open, make sure it's cropped so you're editing a photo to the size that you want it. And once you're there, we'll begin the process. So we're going to start off by duplicating our background layer. Now there's two ways to do it. I can hit Control-J. Okay. The other way is I can simply grab it and drag it to the plus sign. That is the new layer sign or copy layer. So either way works. Now, the first step in this process is we're going to go up to Filters. That's going to be our top menu bar. And under Filters, we're going to go to Other. And we're going to go to High Pass. And when we do this, you can't see much. You want to see like all the main lines. If you do this too much, it's not going to work. You don't want this effect. So I'm going to bring this all the way down. 4.1 looks fine. And again, you're going to eyeball this. And if it comes out too harsh, simply delete it and restart it and go with the lower number. So I'm going to hit OK. Now, in my layer options, I'm going to pick linear light. And this is where you can see if something is too harsh. So if you feel that the detail effect is a little too harsh, simply trash that layer and hit Control-J. And you can go back up and do it again, and you can use a lower number. So again, we're going to go Filters, Other, High Pass. And I'm going to knock this one down to, let's try that at 3.0. And again, I'm going to go to my layer options here, and I'm going to pick linear light. That's a little better, so it's not as harsh. Now, we don't want this effect to my entire face. We just want to see the details, sharpen the eyes, bring it out. So I'm going to create a layer mask, and I'm going to hold down Alt while clicking this little square icon with a circle. That is our layer mask. So by hitting Alt, I'm going to create one, but with a black fill. And now that we have our black fill, you can see that effect has gone away. So one rule to remember is black hides and white reveals. So I'll say it again. Black hides and white reveals. I'm going to go up to my brush palette. So you can hit B for brush, or you can go to the toolbar to the far left. And then up here, I want to make sure I have a soft round brush selected. And by hitting left bracket or right bracket, I can increase the size of my brush. I do not want it at 100% opacity, so I'm going to go up to the toolbar for the brush. So anytime you pick a tool, that tool will have its own little toolbar right here at the top. So I'm going to go back to brush, and again, you'll see how the toolbar changes. I'm going to take this opacity, I'm going to knock it down. Let's go up 45, 46%. That's fine. And all I want to do is bring in some of the details around my eyes, nose, mouth, and that's about it. And I did not toggle to white, so I'm going to hit X to toggle and do that whole process over again. So if something's not working, look at your workspace. In this case, if you look over to the far left, I had black instead of white, so I toggled X and brought white to the front, and this way I'm using that tool. It's hard to see that you're doing anything while you're looking at the image. If I turn it on and off, if you look at the eyes, you'll see how the eyes get much sharper. You'll also see it in the mustache and the beard area. And if you want to check to see what you've done, you could press Alt and click click on your mask, and you can see what I've done and areas that you might need to highlight. So I'm going to press Alt again and click on the mask, and you can see the work that you've done. Now, this next trick, I need to make a copy of both these layers and put it into its own layer. So the shortcut is Control, Alt, Shift, and E. And what that's going to do is that's going to take every layer, copy them, and condense them into a new layer. And that's what I have here. Now I'm going to go over a trick. This is called the 2010 technique. I did not come up with the technique. In fact, I came up with none of these techniques. Some of these are standard practices. Some of these are very specific. But the 2010 technique helps bring your photo out, your portrait out, especially when you print it. It really makes the faces come forward. So I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to hit 20. And I'm going to go up to my filters, and I'm going to go to Sharpen, Unsharp Mask, and I'm going to hit 20. Go 20 for radius, and leave threshold at 0. And again, you're not going to see much of an effect until I show you afterwards. I'm going to copy this layer, so Control J, and I'm going to double click and rename this 10. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to Filters, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask, Amount 10, Radius 10, click OK. Now, on both of these, I want to apply a black layer mask. So I'm going to press Alt. I'm going to click on my layer mask icon, which is that square with the circle inside of it. I'm going to go to the other one, press Alt, select the mask icon, and I have a black fill on this. Same thing, white reveals, black hides. I'm going to go back to my brush. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. What I want to do is I want to brush the main part of my face. Okay? And this, again, the goal is to bring the face forward. So I'm going to be sharpening the front of my face, and then I'm going to leave the rest of the face kind of as shot. So that's going to help bring the face forward. So I'm just going to do that. And again, I have my opacity set at about 45%. So I'm going to go over it twice. And by doing that, I create like a little soft gradient. So this area will be like super white, and this area will get softer grays going into blacks. So we can check that by just Alt and click on the layer mask, and you can see what I mean. And again, I can brighten that main part right there. Press Alt, click on the mask to reveal. On the next one, the 10, I'm going to make mine much smaller, and I'm basically going to draw a capital T. So I just want to get my eyes, my nose, and my mouth. And because I have a mustache, I'm going to bring a little bit more into that mustache. I'm just going to bring that all in. So let's take a look. Yes, that looks just like me. There's the mouth and the mustache. And let me hit Alt again. Okay, so again, it still doesn't look like I've done much. So I'm going to hit Shift so I can have both these layers selected. And I'm going to click a new folder. And I'm going to change this to 20/10. So I have my 2010 technique. And again, if you look at the mouth and you look at the eyes, you'll see it happen, turning it on and off. Okay. So right here, you'll tell really easy with the mustache. And if you look right up here at the eye or right up here at the eye, you'll see that again. Okay. So once that's done, I'm going to move on to my next phase. I'm going to bring out my eyes a little. So I have brown eyes. This really kicks in if you have like hazel eyes, green eyes, or blue eyes. You'll see a dramatic difference. With my brown eyes, I'm simply going to make a highlight. So I'm going to go to my new adjustment layer. That is the half circle, half gray, half white. I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to select levels. And I have a white mask that automatically appears, and again, white reveals black hide. So I'm going to fill this. Now, if I toggle black to the foreground, I can go into my layer mask, and I can press Alt-Delete. And Alt-Delete will fill that with your foreground color, which is black. If I hit Alt or Control-Delete, I will fill it with the background color, which is white. So Alt, delete again, fill it with black. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on my eyes. So you get it deeper zoom or just select the magnifying glass. I'm going to go back to my brushes. I'm going to make this very, very, very small. And I just want to stay right in here, and I'm going to paint it white. Now, I forgot a step. So if I do this, you're going to see it be kind of a little funky. You're not going to see much, right? And let me toggle it back to white. I forgot to toggle it back to white again. So if I do this, you're really not going to see much because I haven't changed my layered style yet. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to pick screen. And now I can really see the effects that I'm going to do. I'm going to come in. And again, I am just bringing out my highlights. And let's zoom in a little bit more so you can see that. So you can see how the highlights are being brought out. I can also do some other stuff. I could go into the sharpen tool. And I can gently go over this and sharpen these also. But I don't think I really need to in this case. So again, let's look at the eyes. You can see the difference that it brings out. Now, if you light up too much, so let's say you do the skin by accident. So let me go here and do this on purpose. Okay, so let's say I highlight the skin a little bit, see what happens to the skin right there. All you have to do is paint back over it in black. Okay, so let's pick an area. Let's do this cheek right here. Okay, so you can see where I create that little white spot. I'm going to toggle the black, and then all I'm going to do is paint black back into the mask. So black eyes, white reveals, that's all I'm doing. So I'm going to zoom back out. And again, you can see the effects on the eyes. And there's still a little bit on the cheek. So let me brush that back in. And I can always check over here. Okay. And toggle it on and off again. Now, if something is too intense, I can take the opacity of that layer and I can knock it down a bit. So if I don't want the eyes to be that intense, I'll just come in here and lower the opacity level of that layer. All right, so now I have the detailed sharpen, my face coming forward. I've highlighted my eyes. So now we're going to look at a couple of other effects that we can do. One thing that's new to Photoshop is called neurofilters. Before, you would have to make a copy of everything like I do. So I'm going to get Control-Alt-Shift-E. I'm going to merge all layers. And before, what you'd have to use is the blur tool. And you can either do like Gaussian blur, or you can come in and just use the blur tool over here on the left and smooth out some of the skin. We don't have to do that anymore because Photoshop does it for us now. So I just got rid of that lesson. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look here, and I'm going to look for little blemishes that maybe I don't like. So I see one like right in my nose. I see some areas where I didn't shave. So I'm going to use the healing brush, and that is J. So just the letter J. And I can come in here, and some of these little blemishes, and maybe I want to get rid of that hair, that hair. I don't want to use this too much. And I think that's fine. Now, a little bit of splotchiness. I have freckles, so I'm just going to leave that alone. And I think this is good. So I'm going to zoom back out. Also, if you see little things like this where I have hair or lint, I can come in there and I can clean that up too. So like, just like in here, clean it all up. The reason we keep making copies, let's say I screw up. If I screw up this layer, all I have to do is delete it and hit Control-Alt-Shift-E again, and I'll have a duplicate version of it. So we always want to make sure that we have our base layer, and that we have our options. So if we do make an error, we're not having to go all the way back to the beginning and start completely from scratch. We can just start again from where we made our error. So I'm going to go into filters. I'm going to go to neural filters, and you're going to see this option for skin smoothing. I'm going to click on it, and then you can make some adjustments. I'm going to take a little bit of the smoothing off. I'm going to take a little bit of the blur off. So again, this used to be a really painstaking process of trial and error. And again, I'm taking a little bit of the blur off. I'm taking a little bit of the effect off because I don't want to have too much of the effect. I'm going to click OK. And you can see how it smooths it out. The one other thing that it's done is it's taken away a little bit of splotchiness. It's also hidden quite a bit of my freckles. So if I don't want it to be as pronounced, again, I can just reduce that layer process, and you can see how I bring some of that stuff in. Okay. This is a great feature, but you don't want to go into it too much to the point where everyone looks like plastic. Okay. So it's a tool. You can also put a layer mask on there, so if you wanted to bring out some other areas specifically, you can do that. Okay. And this is pretty much done. Let me zoom out. That shortcut's not working here. Sometimes you get a glitch. It's fine. So one of the things that I can do is I can now make some artistic changes to this. So I'm going to do this really briefly so you can see kind of an idea of what I can do artistically. One thing, I'm going to make a copy of this layer, so I'm going to hit Control-J. And wouldn't you know it, my keyboard just died. Right, so we're going to take a quick pause. I'm going to grab my cable so I can start charging my keyboard because my keyboard has died while doing this tutorial. Okay, and welcome back. What are the odds that my keyboard would die during the middle of the tutorial? But I'm back. The keyboard's plugged in, getting charged, so everything's going to work. Where I left off, we did the skin smoothing. I try not to make it too dramatic. And if it is a little bit too dramatic, what I can do is simply knock down the opacity, and you'll have less and less of the effect. I'm going to bring this back up. I'm going to make a copy of this layer. So I'm going to hit Control-J. You can also drag it down. And I'm going to convert this layer to black and white. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it. I'm going to be showing you 3 different ways. I'm going to be destructive about it. You don't have to be destructive, but I am going to be destructive. A non-destructive way would simply to create a new layer style. So if I come up here, I can create hue saturation, and then I can simply click it to this, and then merge it after. But that's a lot of work. So I'm just going to. I can always make a new copy. If I screw up, I can make a new copy. So I have a copy of my face. I'm going to go into Image Adjustments. Okay, and this is destructive because the layer adjustments you can edit at any point, but they sit above the image. They're not actually part of the image. You're not actually working on the image. You're working above the image. This is destructive because I'm actually working on the image. So I can select Hue Saturation, and I can come in here and I can just desaturate it. And that's going to give me a nice black and white. I can adjust the lightness with this. I don't want to play too much around with that, but that's one way I can do it. I'm going to hit Cancel. Another way I can do that is I can go again into Image Adjustments, and I'm going to go black and white. In black and white, you also have a few other features like maximum black, that's too dark, maximum white, or you can just go default, and there's other things you can check out. And I'm just going to start adjusting this a little bit. So I'm going to use the red, and you guys can just play around with that. So I like that, so I can pick OK. Um, the third way, and so I'm going to click that layer off. The third way is I go into Image, Adjust, Calculations, and you're going to see how this pops up here. And I can come up here, and I can change my settings. And I want to see how these are being affected. Okay. Not looking like it's doing much. This is okay. And what that's going to do is that's going to create a new alpha channel. I can go to this alpha channel, and I'm going to hit Control A, and I'm going to hit Control C to copy. So Control A select all, Control C to copy. I can come in, create a new layer, hit Control V, and that's going to give me a new layer based on calculation. So, a couple ways to go about making it black and white. You can really just play around with it and figure out what you like. I'm just going to use the other one and get rid of this one. Again, you can see slightly different effects. But maybe I'll keep them both. I can see which one I like better. So I'm going to go on over here, and this is that black and white layer that I made with the black and white option and image adjustment. And here you have your layer options, and you can see how you can do different things like multiply. Here's overlay, soft light, hard light. I like the hard light look. Now, this is a little intense, okay? So this isn't going to be the final product. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make some adjustments, and I'm going to hit Control L at the levels. And then here is my slider for my midtones. And I'm just going to bring this over. I don't want to bring my slider for my white tones over because it does that. So I'm just going to bring these over. I don't want to go too far again. Just making some adjustments. And I'm going to click OK. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my opacity. And I can control how much of this effect I'm applying to my photograph. So let's turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it off. And again, this is just a way to add a little bit of a dramatic effect, dramatic lighting. If I go into this one, okay, again, I can go into hard light. I like that one. So let's go find that. And I can reduce this opacity down. I can hit Control L for levels. And again, I can make adjustments here. My best advice, mess around, see what you like. I actually kind of like this one better. So I'm going to stick with that one. Now, the last trick, and again, I could have showed you this trick on this layer. Okay, I'm going to show it to you on top of this. But I'm going to bring my face out even more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new layer, but this isn't going to be a regular new layer. I'm going to hit Alt while pressing the new layer button, and I get a dialog box. And you can label the soft light you want. Mode is going to be soft light, so I need the soft light. And then I'm going to hit Fill with soft light neutral gray color. Okay, and what this is going to do is absolutely nothing. So you can see nothing has happened, okay? But we're going to use this layer to make adjustments. So I have white and black as default. I don't want to use that black. That black's a little dark. So I'm going to hit charcoal, and I'm going to go to my airbrush. And my opacity is at 10. I'm going to maybe, let's go 20%, 25, somewhere around there. Doesn't have to be exact. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out my shadows a little bit more. But in order to do that, I want to just affect my face. So I'm going to go to the layer below. And Photoshop has gotten way, way better. You can now just hit Select Subject. This used to be a whole other lesson. But I'm just going to hit Select Subject. It does a pretty good job. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you can see how it's not perfect. I can go try this on a different layer. So I'm going to go to my regular layer, hit Select Subject again. and it does a little bit better job. So all I need is a selection. So I'm going to go back to my soft white layer. Now, the marching ants, they can be a little bit confusing. I'm going to hit Control H to hide. So that's Control H to hide. And with my charcoal, I'm just going to go around the edges of where my shadow is. And I'm just going to bring this shadow up ever so gently, not a whole lot. Okay, and again, when we're doing this, we don't necessarily see the effects, but I'm going to turn this on and off, so I'm turning it off, and turning it off, turning it off, and I'm turning it on. And then the other thing you can do with the white, I don't think I need to do this because I have some nice highlights, but I can come in here and I can lighten certain areas up. I'm going to knock this down to like 10 though. Somewhere around it. 10, 12, it's fine. And I can come in here and bring out some of these colors. I'm going to make some smaller. Here. There. Okay. So when you look at this, you can see that dramatic effect. Okay. And this all becomes preference to like what you want to do. And play around, explore. There's different effects, but again, this is all about adding a little drama, adding a little more depth to the picture. It brings out the face a little bit more. So let's say I don't want to do it on my little artistic side. Let's say I just want to do it on the normal photo. It works on the normal one too. So you can see that adjustment. But I'm going to put this on top, turn that on, and there is my photo with a little bit of a dramatic effect, and that brings us to the end of the tutorial. So hopefully you found this useful. You can go back, play it, pause it, work at your own speed. Do some trial and error photos. One thing to keep in mind when you start doing a lot of these, so like if I'm doing 60, 70 photographs of people, portraits, as I move on, it gets faster and faster. So I can usually get each person pretty accurately if I'm just doing superficial edits and cleanups, about 5 minutes per person. Some people, if I go in depth, I can go 10, 15, 20 minutes. It really depends on the person I'm shooting, their skin color, if they have any blemishes, if they have acne. So certain things can add to your time, but this is just a really nice basic edit, and I hope you learned something useful. So next time, this is your art teacher, Mr. Aguilar. Have a good one.